So this is Sebastian. Welcome back to the channel. I have Sebastian here. He is the lighting technician for the Spotify ad, and he wanted to contribute. Well, I guess not. Bye. So this is a lighting breakdown for the Spotify ad I did with Life of Riza. Riza and I have been friends for a couple of years now, and I was super excited that she asked me to shoot this commercial. It was a lot of fun. It was 2 days, and I wanted to just go over some of the stills and kind of draw on them and explain how we lit them. All right, let's start off with one of my favorite frames from the Spotify ad. This is a solo shot of Carissa in her kitchen. We wanted to make sure that it was a nighttime scene, and I wanted to get more practice as well shooting nighttime. And I remember doing some tests with different white balances and moonlight settings with bicolor lights and setting those to different color temperatures. So I definitely had this light outside of the window. This was shot during actual nighttime, which was nice. But this light all here outside of the window is a Zhiyun Molus B500. This is a bicolor light, so we definitely set this light to a cold temperature. Do I know the color of the temperature? No, but if I do and it's in my notes somewhere, I will put it on the screen. So that is a cool temperature, I'll just say that. And all I did was have it on a reflector cone pointing towards the window outside. Thank goodness this kitchen window was on the main floor of the house, which is good because we had regular C-stands. We did not have any wind-ups or 2K crazy big stands in order to like go really high to a second floor or third floor. So this was accessible, which was great, and all we needed was a reflector cone to bounce that light into the window. We chose to key her from that same side, except this is a different color temperature. So we wanted to make it feel like nighttime, and during nighttime, usually our lamps are on. Even this setting here, it's kind of warm. This is where the F22 comes in. This is our key. And our panel light was essentially at a 45. It was boomed out. And so the reason why I put it at a 45 was because if I had had it straight, I would have got a lot of level on the oven here and the microwave, and I didn't want that. So by tilting it down, we were angling it more at her, which is also a nice flattering angle. But we are also trying to avoid seeing light on these cabinets. So you can see that these are quite dark, which I wanted. I wanted this like contrast between this dark background and her. The next light that I'll talk about is the MCs. You can see this one clear as day. There's one MC behind her, directly behind her. Then there's another MC to the very left. It's actually on magnetized on the fridge, and it's pointing the other way. We wanted to make sure that these lights weren't too visible. Like there were certain times, like the one at the bottom of the microwave, that we just couldn't get away with. But if I hadn't have pointed it out, maybe a regular person that is not in film would not have realized that that light was there. So definitely don't definitely don't think too deeply when it comes to seeing practicals like that, because most microwaves do have a little light underneath. So if you're just amplifying what might naturally already be there, then you're looking good. The reason why we chose this color, these Aperture MCs are RGB, so the reason why we chose this color was because of her reference images. And I'll pop those up on the screen. You can see it's a really like eerie green, and we wanted to lean into that. So we basically just bumped up the HSI and played with the saturation of the green and got it pretty close as we were looking at the reference and comparing it to the monitor. So you're always double checking, like on set, you're actually like looking at references and trying to match them as best as possible. And We definitely also made sure the levels of those MCs weren't too overpowering. It's really just like a touch of color and the intensity wasn't too strong. And I really like what it's doing to this old clock here too. You can see like a really nice highlight on the face of the clock of just this green because it's very reflective. So really happy with how that turned out. Final little practical lamp in the corner here. And this was something that Carissa had bought on Amazon. It's one of those lamps that if you keep touching it, it'll adjust the brightness and like the color of the lamp. So that was very convenient. It was really pretty. It was like a crystal kind of lampshade. So I wanted something to be a little more sparkly and like magical for her. And that was it. So that is how we lit this image. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have any suggestions, also let me know. I'm gonna move on to the next one. This is also one of my favorite shots. I think these are my two top favorite shots of this whole thing. This was really cool because the location, shout out to my friend Tess, she allowed us to use her bedroom, which is incredible. Her bedroom has this beautiful brick wall that I really wanted to make sure all of my shots were facing this wall somehow. She was like in this corner and the brick would play a lot into the texture. And Carissa and I talked about this earlier before the shoot. We wanted to feel like a fresh start, and this whole Spotify ad is about going into the new year, and it's about Spotify Wrapped. And so we really wanted to feel like this was a new beginning, and a lot of new beginnings associated with morning and warm sunlight. So I knew that I wanted to make the brick look really nice, and I also knew I wanted it to look like morning. So I'm leaning into my bicolor lights and making them warmer, and I'm also leaning into natural patterns and textures of where this light is coming from. So automatically there is a window here. This is natural light. We shot this in the daytime. I could not put a light outside of this window or control a light coming in here because we are very high up in a apartment building. Could not reach this window at all. So my next idea was to splash something on these curtains and this brick wall. And I wanted some texture. I wanted some I didn't want just like a clean streak. I don't know if you can see, but there are some little pockets here of this is a shadow, just little things where it's not a clean cut. It doesn't look produced. It looks natural. So there's the one way that we did it. And because this was also a very small space, we had to work with reflections. And the way we did this, I was very excited to show you guys how we did this actually. We bounced a spotlight mount into a mirror. This was like a handheld, put another color for that, a handheld mirror that you could get at the dollar store or something like that. Let's say this is the mirror. And the light refracted back onto the curtain and the wall. Because the spotlight mount is very strong, if we were to have shone the spotlight mount, put it right in the corner and shone it at the curtain and the brick wall, we would have had a really intense beam and it wouldn't have looked as natural. And so by bouncing it into this mirror, we could change the angle of the mirror to direct the light where we wanted it to go without compromising our space. We wanted to have, a pretty small footprint because this was a very small room. So once we did that, I think we also placed maybe some, I think you could probably see it here. These little leaves up here are getting hit with light, which I think is casting this shadow on the left where the brick is. So it was using a lot of natural elements in the room already to cut up that fake slash of light behind her. And that pretty much lit up the whole room. You can see a lot of light on this shelf, a lot of the bounce from this duvet cover. This was all white. So you got a lot of nice return, in the room itself. So I didn't really have to light the room overall. It was lit naturally with the light coming from the window, and then we also accentuated it with our spotlight mount, and again, the 500 Mollis by Zhiyun. And so those are actually compatible, the aperture mount and the Mollis. It doesn't sit perfectly straight, but we made it work. So that was our first lighting setup. And then the second lighting setup, you can see all of this level on her face here and this kind of hot spot here. We used, drum roll, the F22 classic. So again, boomed out of 45, pointing down right at her. And you can see this, pretty sure that all of this that you see on her hand, pretty sure that is natural sun coming from the window. All of this soft light that's hitting her face, that is from the F22. So we just want to bring up, you know, general levels. And that was it. I'm very happy with how this was shot, but it was a really cool experiment to see what we could do with reflections and with the spotlight mount, because I feel like this spotlight mount is very versatile. You can use it in very sticky situations. And last but not least, I have a diner shot. I look at this and think that I probably would have done a couple things differently, but we had this location for like 3 hours and we had a lot of shots to do. So what I ended up doing here to key her, well, first of all, before we even talk about the key, all of these lights that you see in the background, so many practicals in this location. This is a like retro roller rink. There were a ton of practical lights everywhere, like different colors, different shapes, different intensities. So your background is relatively already lit, and if I had more time, I might have controlled it a little bit more, because there are certain colors in this frame that I don't think suit the overall vibe. Because there's so much red as well, all of this like return that you see on her face is just like reflection from the red that's all around the rink. And so what I would have done, if I could get another opportunity to do this again, I would put a huge like 8 by or even bigger neg, so that all of this would be shadow, as you would, because that is camera side. Shadow side is facing camera. And what I did do on the day was I think this was I'm pretty sure it was an 8 by, pretty sure that was like let's say it was an 8 by, I'm gonna say quarter grid. Can't exactly remember, but it was an 8 by quarter grid. Again, pushing through that, we had a spotlight, and again, the 500 Mollis. That's so funny. And so the reason why I had the spotlight was because I basically shaped the direct light onto the 8 by as like this rectangle to control it a little bit more, just so that it was just hitting her face, because the whole place was already so lit that I didn't want to like introduce even more light. And so looking back at this, you have practicals. You should play on those practicals, which I did, and you can kind of see what I ended up doing was I used this blue here, this light, and I pushed another tube light. So there's a tube light like off screen right here, tube. And it was some RGB blue that was trying to match that. And you can kind of see what it's doing to her face here. So this is all, like this whole section and all of this in her hair, that is all due to the tube light. Would I have done that a different way? Yes, probably. I would have rotated it and I would have pushed it from behind her so that I would have separated her a little bit here. You can even see it, like the place is naturally doing that for her. The practicals behind her, you can see there's like red in her hair from a lot of the red that's around. So it's like, sometimes I think you just have to pick your battles and see what is naturally already going on. There is like level on her jacket, but I much would have rather have that very dark and kept it in that like this warm color that's on her face. I love that. And contrasting it with like the warm and the blue, there's just too much going on. So roasting that, but overall, I absolutely loved this project. It was so much fun. I really felt like Carissa could trust me. And that's very important, especially with very tight timelines and schedules where you just know exactly how to execute this and what you need to get it done. Please comment down below if you like this kind of stuff. I'm going to be doing lighting breakdowns for pretty much all of my projects going forward and just explaining the kind of gear that we used, and very receptive to critiques down in the comments below. Please roast it if you don't like it, and if you have other suggestions or comments on what to do better. But other than that, if you have not subscribed already, please do. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.